Hello everyone, I am K-Swope, and we are going to be reviewing the first season of Dexter in this video. I am very excited for it. Not only are we reviewing the first season of Dexter, though, we are going to be reviewing all 10 seasons of Dexter so far. I'm very excited for that, because what we're going to do is I'm going to do this video, and then another day or two I'm going to pop out season 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, 7, 8, then New Blood, of course, and we just finished not too long ago Original Sin Season 1. So we're going to be putting out reviews for all of them, and then at the end I'm going to put together a supercut where I'm going to be giving all my reviews together, and I'm even going to be including a ranking and some material not included inside this video and the rest of them. So plenty of reasons to watch. If you're excited for that, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know I'm excited to do it. Hopefully you guys are excited to watch as well. I got some crazy opinions in here, some that I don't think I share with a lot of the rest of the Dexter fan base, so I'm especially excited to share those. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump right in. Before we do, though, we are going to be spoiling things here, obviously, so spoilers for season 1, probably. There's a chance I'm going to be spoiling everything, so if you have not seen any of Dexter and you don't want spoilers for anything, all 8 seasons, New Blood, Original Sin, I have no idea where I'm going with this. I have an outline, I don't have an actual script written, so I'm just going to be going off the cuff, speaking my mind. So just a spoiler warning that I might be spoiling that kind of stuff in here. But let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so diving into season 1, I have a few breakdowns I want to tell you about. So basically what I did is I took each of the big plots of the season. I kind of divided them out. So we got like a Dexter plot, we usually have a Deb plot, and then a police plot, I kind of sort of. And then of course I'll be talking about the villain, because the seasons, most of the seasons at least, have 1, sometimes 2 defined villains that they're kind of working against in the season, antagonists. So we're going to be talking about them as well. And then other random notes I have, I'll just present at the end. And I will be ranking each plot point and each season on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being how Gwen Stacy's death made me feel in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And 10 being Citizen Kane. So let's go ahead and dive right into things. First, let's talk about Dexter for a minute here. So in this season, Dexter, we're getting to know the character, and they do a really good job at introducing him. The internal monologue that we get to hear helps a lot, because we don't know what's going on in his head. He's a psychopath, but he's so good at faking his emotions at this point when we see him that you just don't know what's what. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what his deal is if there wasn't that. We're kind of being spoon-fed and shown the flashbacks. Just, okay, he is actually crazy. You know, we're seeing him make his first homicide, we'll say, trying to be a little YouTube-friendly here, if I can. So, yeah, he does all that stuff, and so he's a very compelling character right from the start, and so I do appreciate that quite a lot. But what's Dexter dealing with this season? He's dealing with, along with the police department, of course, he's dealing with the ice truck killer, okay, which is a killer. They give him the name the ice truck killer because they find out he's driving around in an ice truck, and he's leaving bodies around that are basically like gift wrapped almost. But the strange thing is, Dexter works as a blood spatter analyst, okay? And these bodies have been drained of blood completely, which of course to Dexter makes this incredibly fascinating, because why would someone do that? And it's almost like, and he catches on to this too, that whoever this killer is intentionally trying to get his attention by removing all the blood from the corpses he leaves behind, which that is pretty compelling. But what is also compelling is that Dexter is in a pretty good relationship with Rita, his at the time girlfriend. Now, what happens with Rita is she is a abuse victim. Her husband was abusive, and so it works great for Dexter because she's got some issues, he's got some issues, and they both kind of want to take it slow, and which is great because, you know, Dexter faking his emotions the whole time, he can only fake, you know, interest for so long, which is very fascinating. But on top of it, Rita has 2 kids, Astro and Cody. We'll talk about them a lot more as things go on, because there's a lot to say about them. But her husband is still alive and kicking. His name is Paul. They find out that he has not officially divorced Rita yet, which becomes a problem. Essentially what happens is Dexter eventually frames him for using illicit substances, we'll put it like that, and he basically gets taken back to jail because he was on parole. Dexter also in this series establishing that he is a serial killer, has what I refer to as the kill of the week. And so basically just about every episode of this series, he is hunting down someone who has escaped the law, escaped justice, who falls under the, quote, code of Harry, if you will. He's hunting them down and getting rid of them. He's wiping the planet of them. But as everything unfolds, and again, here's where we get into some major spoilers, the ice truck killer is revealed to be Dexter's brother. Dexter's original name being Dexter Moser. His brother Brian Moser is the ice truck killer. He actually was also parading around, faking things. And he somehow, I don't know how he was able to pull this off, but props to him, I guess. It wasn't bad writing or anything, don't get me wrong. But he ends up getting engaged with Deb, his sister, who we're going to talk about in a second here. Which makes it really compelling, because he's really just using her the whole time. It's all manipulation. He doesn't actually love her or anything like that. But again, really compelling stuff there, really compelling stuff. But overall, Dexter's plot lines, what his character goes through in this season, I give this a good 8 out of 10. It's really solid. It's some of the best writing we see in Dexter. Not the best. We'll get to the best in a later video. But in the meantime, really good writing. Really appreciated that. Moving on to Deb. So she deals with a lot of stuff because she gets moved into the homicide department. She becomes a detective for the first time. She's paired with Sergeant Dokes. And Dokes does not like Dexter. He thinks he's really creepy and really weird. He thinks there's just something sus about him. Which, I mean, he is right. He is a serial killer. So that creates an interesting dynamic. And it's a dynamic that we get to see explored a little bit, that hopefully we'll get to see explored more in Season 2. Spoiler alert, we don't really, that much, at least. But their stuff is interesting, and then she is, of course, also investigating the ice truck killer. She also, like I mentioned before, ends up falling in love with the ice truck killer after being manipulated and agrees to marry him. So that's pretty crazy, for one. But on top of that, too, it's very much established early on that Deb has a hard time with her love life. Which is a pattern that we're going to see throughout the series. And at first, I was like, this is kind of stupid. But I think there's a point where it kind of hits a stride where it's like, okay, I kind of care about Deb's love life now, honestly. But overall, I mean, not the strongest start to a character's plot lines. We are going to see that change as the series goes on. But for now, I'm going to give Deb about a 6.5 out of 10. Now, the police, they're, of course, going after the ice truck killer with Dexter and Deb. So those plot lines kind of all merge together at that point, because what the police are doing is very involved with what Dexter and Deb are also trying to do individually. So there's that. That kind of all runs together. But the only thing that the police really spend a lot of time doing that Dexter and Deb don't spend as much time doing is they actually have a red herring ice truck killer who they think, they're convinced that this is the ice truck killer. And fun fact, he's actually the coolest character in all of Star Wars ever, Star Killer, right? So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, cool stuff. Sam Witwer. So he's the red herring guy. Yeah, I mean, he's a psycho, but he's not a serial killer. So that stuff's okay. I love seeing Sam Witwer, like I said before. But again, it's just kind of mid. I'm going to give that also a 6 out of 10. And I also want to give you a warning right now. The ratings I'm going to give for all my things, they're going to be based off of how it generally made me feel the season. So there will be some type of disconnect at a certain point where I say that, oh, the plot lines of this season may have been bad, but I still kind of like the season, and so I might still give it a higher one. So just to let you know, logic out the window when it comes to how I'm going to rate some of these seasons. So keep you on the edge of your seat at least. The villain, as I mentioned previously, Brian Moser, the ice truck killer, who is also Dexter's brother. Very compelling villain. There's a lot of really good story stuff that goes on with him and all of this. I don't really have as much to say that I haven't said already with the other plot lines. But again, very compelling villain. He basically wants to reunite with Dexter, since they're both psychotic, because they both witnessed the dismemberment of their mother at a young age, which is, of course, traumatizing. So that's pretty awful. He basically wants to reunite with Dexter and let the two of them go on, I don't know, a killing spree for the ages or something. I don't know. It's kind of unclear. We know that he wants to reunite with Dexter, and he wants Dexter to embrace his murderous nature, which, of course, with the Code of Harry and everything, he's like, no, I can't do that because yada, yada, yada. But it's still very compelling. Overall, he is one of the best villains in this series. So the series is already off to a pretty great start where that's regarding. And so I give that an 8 out of 10. Now, moving on to my notes, though, speaking of the ice truck killer, they don't really explain how he gets into Dexter's house to leave clues and stuff like that, like his apartment. I'm sure there's probably a really logical reason, but they don't ever explain it because Dexter, I guess, never really looks into it himself, which is kind of strange. He's just okay with a random person walking into his house. I don't know. Seems pretty odd to me. So that's not great plot point. I wish it would have been addressed at least somewhere here or there. Something else I'm going to talk about, though, on the better side of things, is the first episode of the show is fantastic. I loved it. It's one of the best first episodes that I've probably ever seen. Breaking Bad is probably the best I've ever seen, but this one comes in really close behind it because as soon as I was done with the first episode, I was immediately like, okay, I gotta see what happens next. And that started me on for the first, like, 2.5 seasons. I was like, okay, I was very invested. Now, one nitpick, okay, I want to say about this is this season, the brother reveal, it was great. And Ice Truck Killer, great villain. However, I feel like this reveal may have been better utilized later on in the series. Like, it'd be cool if they kind of established the idea that Dexter had a brother, or he eventually came to the revelation after going back into his past that his mind actively tried to push out that, oh shoot, now that I think about it, I remember having a brother at one point, and then having a more big, grandiose thing from there, using it later in the season. Maybe setting him up over the course of a season or two would have been pretty cool. But I don't know. So, again, they were adapting the book, though, the Darkly Dreaming Dexter book by Jeff Lindsay. They were adapting that, and that book required Dexter's brother to be the Ice Truck Killer right off the bat. So I understand why they did it when they did it. But I still think if they were thinking just a TV show that's maybe just inspired by the Dexter series of books, I think it would have played out a little better if they would have moved it later down the line. But generally, overall, Dexter Season 1, very good season of television. I give Dexter Season 1, overall, a 8 out of 10 on my rating. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up everything I have to say about Dexter Season 1. If you enjoyed this video, hey, drop a like. If you're ready to see my reviews for the rest of the seasons of Dexter, make sure you subscribe because they are coming out if they're not out already. Because if they are out already, you know that iCard, right? It's right here, okay? And it's going to be popping up right here if the video is out. And then go ahead, watch it, watch them all. And again, the supercut is going to have some material and my ranking in that I'm not including in these individual videos. So, go check that out. But in the meantime, I'm K Swope, and I will see you in the review of Dexter Season 2. Catch you later.